Okay, so the way that I searched for keywords before I bought Longtail Pro was by starting in Google Adwords. Now, once you have an account for this, which you can just get with your Google account, you can go into Tools and then Keyword Planner, and just take you to a tool to help you find some keywords. Okay, now what you're going to want to write in here is sort of a description of your post to find the most relevant keywords. So I'm going to be looking for keywords for my post about driving from Atlanta to Miami on a road trip. So I'm going to enter Atlanta to Miami. You can enter as many as you want. So the more you enter, the more accurate the results will hopefully be. And then you can look at these other things like all locations, English. So you might want to change them if you're looking for another language or if you're just focusing on one geographic location, but I'm happy for it to be for everybody. And then we'll get some ideas. Okay, so it will load up some ad group ideas and some keyword ideas. I'm going to start by looking at ad group ideas. So as you can see, a lot of these are about flying, buses, airports, airfares. You know, they're irrelevant to my post, and there is no point looking for keywords that are not relevant. I'm just going to look at this Miami Drive section. Okay, here I can see some that are a bit more relevant. So driving from Atlanta to Miami, drive from Atlanta to Miami. I mean, most of these seem like they would be appropriate. Now, what you can also see on this screen, there's really only one column that matters for the type of search I'm doing, and that's this average monthly searches to give us an idea. To be fair, if I search for a key term and it only has like 20 searches or something, or the low numbers we're seeing here, I tend to just not worry about it and move on and find another, or, you know, sometimes like I just can't find something that really suits my article well. But I don't really see much point writing to keywords when it's very low, like how long to drive, this one that's 10, you know, I don't really see the point. But in saying that, you can see a lot here are kind of similar, like driving from Atlanta to Miami is similar to Atlanta, Miami driving. You know, so if you try to rank for one, you'll probably rank for the other as well, as long as it's not that competitive. So even though individually those aren't that high, you know, they add up to a little bit. So I think it's worth trying to target them. The other thing that I think some people get confused with is this competition. Now, this competition isn't the competition to rank for that keyword, okay? It's nothing to do with it. It's actually just referring to how competitive it is to try and have an advertisement for that key term. Okay, so if we were going to pay Google to have us come up at the top for one of these terms, they're all low, so it's not very competitive for that. Now, generally, like for my blog post for Where's Sharon, I mean, I don't really care what the advertising competition is. It's kind of irrelevant, so I just ignore it. For something like a niche site or where you're trying to sell something, it's often actually quite good to see high competition here. If people are willing to pay money to get a high ranking for something, then, you know, that usually means there's a lot of money to be made in it. So that can actually be a bonus to see high. But for something like my travel blog, like, it's really irrelevant, so I don't really look at it. Now, my next step is to take some of these and try and calculate how competitive I think it is, okay? So we know people are searching for it. We know how they search for it, which order they put the words, so we look for a competitive. So I would start by looking at the ones with the biggest searches. Now, how long is the drive? That's not really what I'm writing about. So I'd start with drive from Atlanta to Miami with 70 searches. Now, I'd go put this in my browser where I have the Moz toolbar installed. So this is the Moz toolbar you can see here. So you can just get that from Moz, it's free. And I made sure I was in a private session or incognito, depending on your browser. They have different names, they do different things slightly. So you want to be in a situation where you're not logged into Google, they don't know who you are, they're not customizing it for you, okay? Because Google will customize based on what you normally look at, what sites you go to, like lots of different factors. Where you are, so automatically Google for me, because I'm in Australia, goes to google.com.au. Now, I'm doing research for a post which I imagine will be more popular in America, and that's who I want to target. So I made sure that I came to google.com. And if you want to make sure you're at google.com and it doesn't just redirect you, you can actually, if you just type NCR here, that will take you to google.com. Okay, so I'm going to try those keywords, I'm going to paste them in, and let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so we're basically just going to see what sort of things rank on the first page and get an idea if we think that if we wrote about those keywords that we could beat them. So what I'm looking for, I'm looking for here, I'm looking to see if the keywords are in order. So we search for drive from Atlanta to Miami. You're more likely to rank well if in your title and URL that you use those keywords. Okay, so when they're not there in order much in that first page of results, it can show that it'll be easier to rank for that keyword. You know, so here it's like highlighted them, not in a row. It's actually highlighting driving more than drive anyway, so that's not matching very well. And I also look here, this is from the Moz toolbar, puts this in. So we've got domain authority and we've got page authority. The main thing I look at is its page authority. The higher it is, the harder it will be to beat. But I do look at domain authority too, especially in cases like this one. It's got page authority is 1, but the domain authority is 95. Okay, that's a really high domain authority. So I would actually, in cases where the page authority says 1, I would think of it as really being about half of that domain authority, because it will still rank pretty well, even with a low page authority, because it's from such an authoritative site. So you can think of that as being in the 40s. So, you know, like quite high. So I would scroll down and I just have a brief look how much matching there is in the title and how strong the competitors are. So these first few, they're not really matching very well. So that's a good sign in the title. It's got quite high domain authority though. And here, well, you can see here that this has a high page authority. So it would worry me, except for that it's actually about flights. It's not even about driving. There's no drive mentioned there. You know, so to me that looks like a keyword where I should be able to get above that, you know, like without too much trouble. You know, this one's like on the right topic, but it's road trip, it's not matching. So, you know, the more I look down, the more, you know, that seems okay to me. There's a lot there that I think that I'd be able to beat. Now, working out what you're able to beat or not, like it obviously depends on your website, and it really just depends on experience. Like I find this a bit easier to look at for this post because I've already written posts on driving from Miami to New Orleans and New Orleans to Atlanta. So I have a good idea of what I can beat just from looking at the success of those posts. They got to page 1 by targeting words similar to this without a problem. So yeah, I mean, that looks okay to me. I mean, all you can sort of do is use your own personal judgment. The other thing to take into account is your website. If you're starting out new, your domain authority may not be that high. You might struggle to get first page for anything. But you can get an idea of what's less competitive, especially if you compare this to another one. And, you know, over time, your website will improve and you can just start ranking for these words. But if you pick something ultra competitive, you'll struggle to ever rank for them. So if we go back to AdWords, so what I'd also check is like the driving and stuff as well, see which one I think is best, which looks less competitive. And when I've had a good look in there, I'd also look at these keyword ideas. So here it will show you the exact ones that you put in and some related ones. So a lot will be similar to what we just saw, but you might see something different. Like say this Atlanta to Miami, you know, it has a great keyword search. I'd love to rank page 1 for something with 1,300, especially in the first couple. Let's have a look at how competitive that is. So we'll put this in. Okay. Starts off with some Google stuff. Okay, so you can see this is Atlanta to Miami. It's got it exactly. It's got a page authority as 55, domain authority 86. You know, that's really good. I'm not going to be beating that. And as you scroll down, you see another 43. This one, but it's from a domain authority 95. You know, Expedia. So you can see there's a lot of exact matches with Atlanta to Miami. Honestly, you know, to me, I look down that and it looks pretty strong. You know, all the page authorities are quite high. You know, even these bottom results are high. I don't really see myself beating that. And the other thing to take into account, right, is that if I, like, say, targeted drive Atlanta to Miami or Atlanta to Miami drive, like we just saw, I am, in effect, targeting that as well because it's part of it. So often it's better to find what they call long-tail keywords. So that just sort of means a statement, like a longer amount of keywords. Because they can be easier to rank for, and in effect you can sort of be targeting these shorter tail ones as well. So yeah, I mean, that's basically what I do. Like I said, I would also search these other ones here, mainly just see drive and driving and determine which one I think looks better and looks slightly easier. If there's not much difference, I just go with the one with the most searches. And I'd also take it in mind when I was writing the post. And, you know, like if I pick drive from it, you know, maybe my heading will be drive from Atlanta to Miami. and I'll just make sure I've got some drivings in the text using that sort of statement, and that way you can sort of target both anyway. Okay, so I covered that really quickly. If it's confusing, which it probably is if you haven't done this before, I suggest you also watch the next video on Longtail Pro. Even if you don't plan to buy it, in there I pretty much follow the same process as this, but it's just that little bit easier to see it. So even if you're not going to buy a Longtail Pro, it might help you understand this process a bit better.